Welcome to this short video on the impact of the power and politics update on playing the large factions in Divide et Impera. And by the large factions I'm talking about Egypt, the Seleucid Empire, Carthage, and I'm including Rome, even though regionally they do not start as a large faction, but there's an element which needs to be talked about. So what I will do, guys, is see you on the campaign map. So here we are, guys, we are on the campaign map for Egypt. And before the power and politics update, I think we would have all just jumped in, started looking at the regions, checking our armies and navies, seeing what we've got. But what you really need to do now is come in and have a look at this screen here, which is the other party's screen, because what you draw here can shape the direction of your campaign. Because the way the game plays now, you've still got the original four families here. You've got the Ptolemaic dynasty, who's the ruling family, and then you've got the Macedonian nobility, Egyptian nobility, and another nobility. And the panel on the left kind of represents the ruling family, and then you've got your other families here, and these have a loyalty to the family. And what actually happens is, if this loyalty drops, where it says protected at the moment, because whenever you start a campaign the first 20 turns are protected, you will get a percentage there growing, which will define on whether the risk of a civil war. And the key factor is, guys, that you can get a civil war at a very low percentage due to the random nature of the game. So with these large factions, there's a very real possibility that you could have a civil war on turn 25. And just to kind of explain that to you in a different context, if I come here now, compared to a single faction start, and let's see, if you started with a single faction, you'd have a single faction and it would all be controlled by the ruling family, and of course no one else would probably be in armies or anything like that, so it wouldn't be a problem. But you can see here with the Egyptian, the current provinces are, or regions are, actually split between the Ptolemaic dynasty and the Egyptian nobility, with the Macedonian nobility and other nobility not getting a look in. But what I want to emphasize, guys, is this map changes dynamically as you play a campaign, and it can change quite quickly. So don't just think, oh, I've controlled all of Egypt and sit up as the Ptolemaic, and then as I conquer, these guys will get it. But what actually happens, guys, is as these families gain power, they can take regions away from you. So it's a possibility, like Libya, if you started recruiting generals into the Macedonian nobility, Libya could actually become their sphere of influence, and or more likely would be Sinope. So once one of these Macedonian nobility or other nobility gets some power, Sinope will go over to them. So this is something you need to be aware of when you start with a large faction. And returning back to here, guys, what I'm going to do now is just give you an overview of the loyalty breakdown. The guy's a bigot, so he's giving -1 loyalty for each province where the player's culture is not dominant. So he's immediately got -4 from that, because obviously there's provinces or regions, or it says provinces actually, isn't it? Yeah. So what he's saying effectively is there are 4 provinces where our culture is not dominant, which makes life a bit tricky for the Egyptians given the way the culture works. Now the difficulty level is -10. If you play normal, it's 0. If you play very hard or legendary, it's -20. And of course, because Egypt's only got 10 regions, the Imperium's still quite low, and it says +10, but for some reason that says +5. I don't know if that's a bug or feature, or if I'm just misreading that. So these guys get that from there. And now the promoted characters is a kind of starting game perk, which you will see appear in the large factions. Occasionally you get it in the small factions as well. And what this relates to is these guys could get promoted, and every time you promote one of these here for political, and the lower ranks you have to do it manually now, and then I think Dresden has said that once you get to a certain level they have to win victories. But what you can't do is promote your own leader now. But if you give these guys promotion, that is reflected in here. And the way the game starts, as though this is built in, give you a little bit of a heads up start to get your loyalty under control during the first 20 turns. But to return back to here, but what I will say, guys, is if you promote a member of your own family, say you've had a new member here, you will actually have a negative impact on here. So you can actually have a negative impact on because they're upset that you're promoting your own family. So that's something you need to go. So let's just kind of get back to looking at these traits. Now, if any of you guys not played with this update enabled, The top two traits are the party traits. You're stuck with those throughout the campaign. I think there is a way to get rid of a party, but I'm not sure how it's done. I think you have to kill everyone in it and then a new party is generated. Whether you get new party traits is something I've never tested. And the bottom one comes from your fat party leader, who currently are one of the three main characters in there. Now, these traits can be quite important on the way here, because you can see this guy's already there. The populist is one you can live with, because you get -10 loyalty for every level above average taxes, unless you've got a habit of running at very high taxes. Bigot's one of the nastier traits, and along with thirst for power. And the other ones which would affect, say, the Egyptians, would be the dislikes Easterners. Pacifist, again, if you're going to fight an aggressive campaign, you get -5. And at the moment, he's getting nice and positive. Now, other factors actually comes from up here, because the Egyptians start with a superb leader, which is hard-coded in. It's not random, so you can't change this, guys. I do know if you play the Macedonians, they actually start with a inept leader, which gives a -10 other factors. This guy's a populist, yeah, so... And the way you want to do it, say like you want to get rid of this guy, so Egyptian nobility, one way to do it is if we come to characters, Egyptian nobility, yeah. So if we hire this guy, and you see now he's a mogul. Mogul's a very good one to have for the late game. So in some ways you've got a good combination there now. And of course, if this guy's a real turkey, and this guy's nice and young, I presume. Let's see. He's 16. So what you could do is, if this guy starts to get a bit of a problem, of course you can assassinate him down here. But the far more kind of way I think most people would do it, I know I would do it, is put this guy in as a general in a battle and let him die. Now, what you do need to be aware when you do that is that when a party leader dies, you get a penalty of loyalty, especially. So you need to be aware of that as well. And I think that kind of covers the Egyptian start. As I said, it's compared to the other large factions, it's the easiest start. So if you're looking to play a large faction just for the fun of it, and you want to learn the loyalty one, I would suggest starting as the Egyptians. And of course you can actually get secure loyalty down here. The other thing you can also do, guys, while I'm just doing it here, if you send these guys away on missions, they can actually gain loyalty by doing missions as well. So there's various ways that you can improve loyalty. So I think that covers Egypt. And what I'm going to do now, guys, is quit out and we'll come back on the Seleucid campaign. So I'll see you in a minute. So here we are, guys. We're on the Seleucid campaign map. Just going to dive straight in, have a look at the power and politics. Now, the Seleucids are on a par with Egypt from a starting position, especially when you get a fairly good draw like this. Now, one of the problems you can have with the Seleucids is, if I come back and look at diplomacy, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 satrapies. Now, if you happen to have one of these guys who actually hates Easterners, you're going to start with a loyalty penalty based on the fact that he hates you actually having satrapies, which may seem a bit strange, but that's the way it goes, guys. And just to give you a breakdown of it, in the case they've got the difficulty level there, this guy's xenophobic. So again, this gives you an idea. It looks like it cuts off at -10. So basically, because we've got effectively treaties with our own satrapies, we're actually taking a -10 penalty because this guy's a xenophobe. So if this guy also hated Easterners, you could actually start with a -20. So that would mean this guy would be -2. And of course, we've got the promoted characters bonus in here as well. Here. And of course, what you also get now is from government type, in the sense that the Seleucids start as an empire, and so you can't do the sidebar, which is +10 loyalty. I mean, you could change if you wanted to, but why would you? I mean, you've got the best deal going. You've got +10% research or the SEL rate. You've got construction costs are higher. I can't read the rest of it, but why would you want to convert to an oligarchy or something like that, or even a republic? Because you can see as a republic, it's -10 loyalty for all political parties, and we'll be talking about that when we actually see the Romans. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to do that, guys. So this is a pretty good spin actually from the point of view of the Seleucids. I mean, I've seen worse in my test plays. Other factors as well, you could get 10 because they've also got a superb leader. So again, the Seleucids, from the point of view of starting as a large faction, it's pretty good. And I'm just going to show you the actual map now. If I click here, and you can see again, you've got the Seleucid dynasty, the Macedonian nobility here, and of course that's the only two, but that will change. I think I did some test play, and what actually happened is I recruited a general, and this area started to go over to local nobility. I think it was a local nobility, yeah, yellow. So what actually happened was that you started to get squeezed as the power. So it's something you need to think about, guys, when you're recruiting your generals here, or even statesmen, because remember, if you hire a statesman, they will still add to the influence of your political parties. That if they're the closer they get to your influence here, the more land they will take from you on this map. So if you start getting parties here, so the actual Macedonian nobility, what percentage are they? Let's have a quick look, guys, just out of... Yeah, so they're 23%. So they're starting to get... So if all these guys... So if one of these started to get to 20%, then they would start squeezing on that point of view. And I think that covers it. I mean, if I was starting here, I think I could live with that guy, but I think I'd be looking to get rid of this guy in the medium term. I could probably live with him for the first 20 odd turns, and of course, because you've got the 20 odd turns, you can actually get this sorted out. I can't see any point of respinning this. As I say, if the one I would say, guys, is that if you really wanted to play a good role play as the Seleucid Empire working with satrapies, if you spun a condition where someone hated Easterners, obviously the ideal you would want is love Eastern empires. I would probably suggest that if you got, well, especially if you had two of these families had hated Easterners, I think you probably need to just quit out and respin. I think that's about it, guys, for the Seleucid Empire. And what I'm going to do now, guys, is I'm going to quit out and come back as the Romans. So I'll see you in a minute. So here we are, guys. We are on the Roman campaign map, and we're just going to jump straight in. And you can see we've got the 4 families and the politics. And we've now got a -6 because this guy is a pacifist and a bigot. And what you can see here now, this is a totally different level of difficulty compared to the Egyptians and Seleucids, especially at a hard level, because we get -10 for difficulty. We're getting 10 because this guy's a pacifist, because we're already at war with see, who are we at war with? Are we actually at war? How many wars we're in? Yeah, we're in 2 wars. We're in war with the Etruscan League and the Epirus. So we're immediately getting a -10 from here, which gives him -6. We've got government type -10 because the Romans start as a republic, so they've got -10 loyalty. There is scope maybe playing the Romans, depends on how much you want to role play it. You could convert to a kingdom or reformed republic to kind of ease off some of the problems. That's something worth considering. Let me come here. I mean, the rest of them are okay. And of course, what you've got is the actual perks from the promoted characters. This one's got, and there's not so many, they got 12, so you've got some fairly heavy perks there. This guy's not quite so good. And of course, what you don't get in the Roman one is you don't get any traits from the faction leader, positive or negative. So oops, didn't mean to do that, guys. So again, what you need here, having a bigot up there is going to be a bit of a problem as you expand, and of course the diplomatic influence as well. This is there +1 loyalty for every case where your player has more than 100 relations with another faction. And that -1 loyalty for having less than -1 relations. So you can see straight away we've already got -3 type there. So this is going to be the problem party. And again, I think this is what you need to think, especially when you start, if you want to play as the Romans or when we get to the Carthaginians. You've got to look at the party that's going to give you the most trouble. And I mean, and this is the trait that I was saying about, which is very good for the Seleucids. As you can see, a +2 loyalty for each eastern faction which you have established diplomatic treaties, up to 10. So as the Seleucids, if you've got someone here who likes Easterners, you immediately get a +10 to loyalty, and if they all had Easterners in the Seleucid Empire, you'd be really cooking for a good start. So it was worth going through here. It says plus loyalty for every agent action 5 turns. That's an interesting one. I've never seen that one before. Barbarians, again, well, playing Rome, you're not going to be making many treaties, but it's something you've got to bear in mind when you're playing these large factions. And just to show you the map, and again, you can see that the split is a lot more 50-50 because of the power bases. Probably if we come back in here and look at the characters, yeah, it's 25-27, so the 26-22. So the Cornelian, which I presume is the... No, Cornelian isn't there, so it's actually saying the Junii and the Julia. So we're playing Julia. I think we're playing Julia. I can't remember actually now. I just selected, I just clicked on. Yeah, we're playing Julia. So it's actually saying these guys are actually the more powerful. Probably actually yes, because if I remember correctly, if we come here, yeah, he's a general in Benevium. So the generals have an effect on what territory, because these guys are statesmen. So having the general is tipped the balance in the context of this map. That's something I've never noticed before, guys. Yeah. So having a general here is actually giving us the balance in that area there. So just to kind of run through again, guys, Rome, as I say, region-wise, they've only got the 5 regions. They've got the benefit from the Imperium, but of course, what will happen is that will disappear relatively quickly as you expand. So that's something else you need to consider. And I've just really included Rome in this area just to show you the effect of Republic on your loyalty, something you're going to manage if you need to stay as a Republic. And yeah, probably the other thing, I'll just cancel that, is the effect of these traits on your overall growth of the empire. And I think that kind of covers Rome. So I'd say that Rome is more difficult than the Egyptians and the Seleucids, but it's still not a massive challenge if you kind of think about it. And as I say, if you get really bad traits, just quit out and spin again, guys. And again, it depends on how you want to play as the Romans. If you're going to be totally militaristic and go out and expand, having a pacifist on board is not going to be good. And of course, the bigot is going to be a bit of a pain in the neck as well. But that's a decision you've got to make. Right, guys, that's enough for the Romans. And what I'm going to do now is move on to the Carthage campaign map. So I'll see you when we get there. Here we are, guys. Welcome to the Carthage campaign map, and it is Carthage that triggered this video because I was thinking about doing a Carthage campaign, and after kind of looking at it a bit, and I actually played the first 20-30 turns, and I got very much tangled up in the loyalty. So I think the easiest way is just to explain it to you guys. So we're going to come in here. And here we go, guys. This is Carthage, and I think from a power and politics point of view, this is one of the toughest starts that you can actually get. And I think you really got to know about managing loyalty to actually play this campaign now. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just it's difficult, and you can see 0, -17. And to give an example, guys, I actually was spinning these at random in preparation for this video, and I actually had one where the landowners party came in at -27, and every single of these other parties had a negative loyalty. And bearing in mind, you're only protected for 20 turns, so if you got this guy at -17, if you don't get the loyalty under control, you could have a civil war on turn 22. And I think if any of you guys have played Carthage, you know, I mean, just to show any of you guys who never played Carthage before, if we come in here, you can see Carthage has a very spread out empire. It's got public order issues to start with. It's got a couple of allies down here, and just to show you back to the power and politics one, you can see now compared to the other factions, all 4 families now have a bit of the map. And what is interesting, guys, see the Magna Dynasty starts here. Well, as you play, and I actually had a general here who was a member of this family. And what actually happened, guys, is that the Magnoid took over this area here, squeezed out the landowners party, and they were actually squeezing me east as they grew, because I'd mistakenly recruited a couple of generals in for that party without noticing, and that was a bad mistake on my part. But it started to have consequences. So unlike the Egyptians or the Romans, if you get into a civil war and turn 25, you could actually lose a big chunk of your empire. And that's one of the challenges. Let's get back into here now, guys. Whoops. Actually, I don't know why I clicked on that. And just have a look through. Let's give you a breakdown now, guys. Now, of course, you've got the difficulty -10. And, of course, the Carthaginians start with the largest number of regions compared to any other of the large factions. So, of course, they're immediately on this penalty. And, of course, they're very close to losing any support to loyalty whatsoever. So, conquer a couple of regions and you're going to be on Imperium level 4, which means you're going to get no benefits whatsoever from the loyalty anymore. So the little bit of Imperium level 10 will disappear. And unlike the other factions, it's very tight on promoted characters as well. He's got 6, that's not too bad. And he's only got 2. And you can see this guy's only got to level 8 because he's a xenophile. So you get +2 loyalty for every faction which you've established, and diplomatic treaties up to 10. And of course the other thing also is that the government type is Republic, so you get -10 from government type. And one of the test plays I actually did, guys, is I took advantage of the protection for the first 20 turns and I actually converted to an oligarchy, which got rid of that penalty, which turned things around. It actually got +5, so I actually was able to turn the loyalty round. But what I will give you a big warning, guys, is that if you decide to do that, do not do it on turn 1. Because of this -20 descending faction wire and minus loyalty, you can ignore the loyalty for the first 20 turns. And the way to actually do it is, if I show you the public order, you see the public order is all bad and descending. So if you do want to change governments, and this is a kind of top tip, guys, what you need to do is spend, say, the first 7-8 turns or more building up your public order. Really drive it hard, build lots and lots of temples. So what I'd effectively do is go through here, expand here. So I'd probably put one there, because with you've got to remember temples give sanitation. So what you do effectively is go through here, build a temple in every one. I won't do any more, and really drive the public order hard to get it up. So what you want it is as close to 100 as possible before you actually then come in here and pop the change here. I mean, just to show you guys, I'll pop it just to show you the effect. And if we come here, if we come in here, look at -26. So even here, 2 turns and everywhere have rebellion everywhere. So you don't want to do that. And of course, if I come to the loyalty thing now, he's -5. He's not too bad actually, because he's had -20. He's -22. But you can ignore this from the point of view of protected, because -22 you have the stability. But I certainly don't recommend doing that on the turn 1. As I say, what you want to do is get to about turn 8, get your public order as high as possible. Your weak areas is this province here, Hispania, and there's a province here, Isle. These are the 2 weak provinces that you may need armies in. What I also did when I did the test play is I built an army here. So there, and the other thing I also did is I actually untaxed that province and this province. Maybe I'll make a video on the first 20 turns if you're really interested, guys. It's an interesting exercise to do, but I'm not recommending that you actually do that. It depends on how well your traits come here. And again, I think what I will say, guys, is if they're really bad, just respin. So Carthage is a very interesting faction to play under the power and politics. I do believe that it actually presents the greatest challenge, especially if you want to play with just a random draw, because if things go wrong, things will go wrong big time. With Carthage, you're probably talking the first 20-30 turns of actually just building up the empire, trying to make as many friends as possible. And again, this is where this factor comes in. See, he hates Easterners, so you already got -4. So if you start making trade deals with Eastern empires, so like the Go, I don't think these guys are actually classified as. But maybe we'll just get a trade deal with them. And see if that actually affects him. Yeah, -6. So if you do the usual start to the game of going round trying to strike trade deals with various factions, I don't know if these guys are not very reliable. So let's just do that. And the Cthulhu, they should give us a trade deal. They normally will give you one. Yeah.
We can ask no more.
I don't think we can get any other trade deals. The Darsai, I think they're classified as barbarians. But if I actually now come back to here, you can see now I've actually got up to -10, which is the maximum, just by doing a few trade deals, and that's now down to -28. And of course this guy's a bigot, and if you can consider the fact that the Carthage starts, I think it was 6 provinces, and it looks like 5 of them don't have cultural superiority. I'm sure it's 6 provinces. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh no, it's 7. And if you bear in mind that, Numidia here, getting cultural superiority here is going to be a bit of a tough call, actually, guys, because you've got to deal with the. Let's see there. So the desert nomads have got 6 against 2. So how the heck are you going to get the culture up in there? And I think the same applies over here as well. Yeah, these are 4 against 2. So you certainly would have to build up temples in this area, because all these are incomplete. And of course you're going to have to deal with the Hellenic culture over here, which is 6 against 2. So having a bigot on the team over here is going to be a bit of a pain in the neck, and we've actually got 2 here, and dealing with them in the long term is going to be a bit of an issue. And I think I've kind of covered everything, guys. I'm not trying to put you off playing Carthage, but it's made me rethink my strategy, because I was actually going to do a Carthage campaign, and I feel that I could do it, but I want to learn a little bit more about the loyalty mechanics and how it can actually work before I jump into a Carthage campaign, actually. And on that note, guys, I'm also looking at the Seleucids, because there's a new mechanic to do with the satrapies that were introduced as part of 1.2.2e, where I think it's a bit more easier for the satrapies to break away, so that's something that's could be worth considering. And of course the other thing also I've just noticed, I've forgotten to tell you guys, is that when you change here, it costs 10,000 gold. So if you're going to plan to flip government types in the first 20 turns, you've got to make sure you've got 10,000 gold to pay for it. So you're also restricted on cash. Right, guys, this is where I'm going to call it. I think I've rambled on long enough, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it interesting. And if you've got any comments, opinions on, well, how would you fight Carthage, or how would you manage loyalty, feel free to add them to the video description. And above all, guys, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.